Hey everyone, welcome. We're just getting one more mod in and then we'll start the show. Welcome everybody. This is Halo Talks. So for those that don't know, we do have another show called Xbox Talks. It's using a new feature. Reddit has decided to roll out for certain subreddits, XboxSeriesX subreddit being one, called Reddit Talks. And it's basically, if you've ever been on Twitter, you'll see things like Twitter Spaces, things like that nature, and they're really they're doubling down on this, and we wanted to be one of the first communities to provide this kind of content for you guys. So this is part of it. It's Halo Talks. We're going to be talking about the TV show weekly until the season ends, and then once season 2 starts, we'll bring it back up. But for now, let's introduce the rest of the hosts today. So myself, I am Korkenstein or Kevin. We have Jay Foreman.
Hey y'all, happy to be here.
And we also have Mikey J. Raymond.
Hello.
Awesome. So welcome, guys. So let's jump in. What did you guys think of the episode?
I'll go for it. I'm won over. This is my favorite episode so far, easily. I've been really hesitant. The first episode, I was kind of lukewarm, and it felt really boring to me. And I kind of said that when we reviewed it, especially the first half of the episode. It wasn't clicking for me. It was just doing a lot of predictable things, and then we got to episode 2, and we started to get some of that backstory, and I understand the importance of those 2 episodes. We have to set it up, right? We can't just we dive into this story head on, because there's going to be some changes to the lore that's known, and they need to present that in a way that everybody can understand. So we got to episode 3, and I was really worried. This could have gone either way for me, and boy, did I really love this episode. Bringing in Cortana, that was sorely needed. I've always viewed the relationship between Chief and Cortana kind of like buddy cop, and it's kind of, maybe that's the wrong description, but how they kind of make wisecracks and have that kind of fun with each other. So that adds a whole layer to the show that I've been waiting to see happen. And we got a little more of a Kwan's story, and obviously she's relentless in her pursuit to defend her homeland, her home planet there, and I'm more interested in that than I thought I would be. And we have the Covenant and that whole situation as well. So it feels like a lot happened to this episode, and I just had a really good time with it. So Mikey, how did you feel about this one?
Well, I went into it initially and I was thinking, we're not going to see any more combat again. I'm not going to like this. I'm going to be bored, but I wasn't. I didn't expect Cortana to come to fruition so quickly. And once she was in it, I don't know if the rest of you guys already knew this. I didn't realize the original, I believe her name's Jen Taylor. I didn't know the original voice actor was doing it. So that, I was like, oh my God! When I started hearing her voice, I'm like, they got the right person.
Yeah, right. It sounded like I used to have Windows Phone, and they pushed Cortana on that, and it was just it was eerie hearing that voice on the show. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great to hear that. I thought it was going to be the person playing Halsey, and then she looked like Cortana, and she started speaking, and I was like, all right, this is definitely for the fans at this moment. I'm interested to see, because you brought up their relationship, the buddy cop thing. It's a lot of Master Chief right now hating on her because he's just annoyed with her, and slowly, throughout the episode, it's almost like the classic, I want to say, like a dog and a cop, like more not like a buddy cop. It's like the cop comes to understand the usefulness of the dog, not to call Cortana a dog, but that's almost like how he treats her. He hates her in the beginning, and there's this relationship that hopefully buds, but so far it's forced by Halsey. It's fake. So I'm hoping that their relationship still ends up being something that they both rely on each other and they both come to really respect one another, and not where it turns into this secrecy thing and she turns out to be evil and just only used through Halsey. I would hate to see that. I hope it turns out good, because that's, as a Halo fan, that's what I want to see.
Yeah. There was so much that got added into this. Like, I thought the last episode was pretty narrative heavy, but this one definitely kind of builds a lot more on the foundation and is setting up for a lot of really great stuff. So I'm actually I really like this episode. I liked the previous two as well. My concerns are, like you said, like, well, this is going to be the last of the action, like that first battle scene, and then it's just going to be all narrative from here on out. But no, I really liked it, what they're doing. They're telling an interesting story. They're resetting, they're level setting and making something new, making something of their own. I mean, some people like it, some people don't. But I like where they're going in the direction. And I think, adding Cortana is just going to be, it's another, even though she's her own character, she's another layer of Master Chief's character. So I think it's just going to be this weird dynamic of both of them developing and becoming the Katana that you love, and the Master Chief that we love, and we're not there yet, but I think that's where they're kind of heading, and that's what they'll use is each other to kind of grow. Definitely. Also, I wanted to say, I forgot to say it, keep those hands raised down below. We will get to you guys. We're just kind of doing a little synopsis and stuff like that, and then we'll bring you up on here, and if you guys want to talk about it, what you guys thought. But overall, great episode. What would you guys say score wise? I'd say probably like an 8, maybe 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, this is the first one that's crossed that 7 threshold, whereas 7 is, everybody has their own system, right? But 7 is what I consider as watchable, and with no huge gripes, something that I don't mind watching. But once we get to 8, that means that you've got my attention a little bit. So we've creeped up to an 8. I didn't know if they were going to be able to do it. It's a really weird premise to put this particular show or this story as a television show, but they're pulling it off. I even got some Battlestar Galactica vibes with some of the space action they were showing, something that maybe necessarily didn't get a lot in the Halo games. To my knowledge, there wasn't space combat or anything like that. You weren't flying around shooting things for the most part, and I really enjoy that part, and I hope that we get to see some more of that play out too. And that's something that the show can do that maybe the games weren't able to do so well in the past. So it's a new avenue to explore this universe. I love getting into that kind of stuff.
Can I say that it teased 9 territory for me? Because once Cortana's voice was revealed, it spiked for me, and then it settled at an 8.5. I was
I love that. Yeah, that's great.
More combat. Also, can we talk about the eye scene where they pull the brain imaging out? And
yeah, that's some cringe, right?
Ever since I saw that used in Dead Space once, it's like that's the most cringe thing you can do with like eyes, and everybody likes to go to it for this really gruesome scene, and my fiance had to turn away. She couldn't watch.
Oh, I mean, they hovered it there for like it felt like an hour, but I'm sure it was only a few seconds. But I'm like, oh no, it's getting near the eye. I'm like, no, you can go in through like the temple, or there's lots of different maneuvers. No, boom, right in the eyeball. And I was like, God, no.
Yeah, right through the middle. It was. I watched. I kind of screamed, but I watched. I dealt with it, and I survived.
That's yep. I kept my eyes open too. Didn't hide for the scary part, but that's probably the most anguishing thing I've seen in the show. And there's been some carnage in the show so far, but Once you start popping eyeballs, then yeah, it gets a little a little hairy for me too. So
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. But it was like, it was so much tension because like it popped out, and then it was like the needle and it went to the eye and you're like, okay, it's gonna come any second now. Like it's gonna happen. And I don't know, it just seemed like the longest like 5 seconds to me. And then finally it was just like, yep, right in the eye. And I was like, oh, that's so brutal. But yeah, it was that was interesting.
Yeah, it totally killed one of my previous guesses because I thought Cortana would be like a person that was hooked into a computer. I didn't know they were going to rip her brain out essentially through digital means and transfer her into an AI. I like that they did that, but so Master Chief will not be saving her most likely in person on Reach at the end of the show like I thought she was going to be. But man, I love the Cortana angle and I hope it turns out.
We set up like, I mean, there's a lot of conflict, and I know this kind of parallels the story in the games, but the way that they're using Cortana to undermine Chief and to falsely build up his trust in her by allowing him to remove the emotion pod, for example. And she's like, no, like Chief's going offline here, and they're just like, no, help him, build trust with him, So it's uncomfortable in a lot of ways, the relationship as well too. So this is good storytelling from my view, and like I said, I'm interested to see how it plays out and how closely they stick to the games and how much they branch out on their own. So Cortana really spices up the show for me. I do enjoy that she's been added, and I'm happy to have that part going forward.
Yeah, like that was actually pretty. I like how they brought her to life and how they introduced her, because I definitely had my doubts about like when I saw the pictures, but now hearing the voice actress and stuff behind it, I think this has always been. I think this is going to be a big criticism throughout the whole entire season. Is the CGI is a little weird. I can kind of see them writing themselves out as like this is Cortana, version 1, and maybe second season when they get a bigger budget, they'll double down on some of the CGI for the characters. It's only the character models that are really weird for me, that don't really scream, blockbuster kind of CGI kind of title. But yeah, I like what they did. They definitely did. Some good stuff here, and it's a lot of fan service, which I love.
A lot of the close-up CGI, like I think that actually looks pretty good when they get in up close on the faces. It's the movement, I think, that seems to be kind of awkward and not quite right. I don't know. Something seems off about it in my view anyway, and hopefully that's something that they can smooth out. Like it's running at 30 frames per second for a video game analogy, kind of. Like it looks a little choppy and not quite natural. But like I said, when it's not moving and they get really close and you get the details of the character models, for the example, the Covenant, the higher ups with the human Covenant there, they look really great. And even the elites, when they get real close into their face, like that looks awesome. So it will be interesting to see if the show keeps picking up steam like it is, if they devote more resources to that, so improving the animation maybe. I don't know if you guys had the same experience.
My question is actually, so maybe I missed this. What is projecting her image?
Oh, that's actually that's a really good question, right? There's not a projector or anything. She just kind of manifests, and
I thought it was just in his mind that he saw it, and maybe, the example was they were in Halsey's lab, so she was being projected then. But then the scene where she meets the other Spartans, I was just confused. I'm like, how did they see her? What is...
It's... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. If you know...
I think while on base, it's kind of like she can go around. There's certain things that aren't explained, and it's kind of weird, like the guns, the ammo. Why did the the regular like AK ammo not kill the Covenant, but then all of a sudden Master Chief drops and he's just wrecking house with the same kind of gun. But yeah, same thing like this. I think what it is, it's asking you to kind of like, I guess, suspend disbelief or whatever. But I'm assuming because they're on base, they have the holographic technology already built into like everywhere. And then when you see scenes of him and her interacting, I think, well, actually, that's the only time has been on UN SC stuff, either the ship that she's shown or the base, right? She's never shown herself outside of that area. She's only spoke to him, right?
Right. If she shows up, though, here's where I'll call it. If she shows up on the planet when they get there and she's outside the ship and she's nowhere nearby, I will call shenanigans, because I want to know where the projector is then on Chief's armor. Also, it's funny you bring up the ammo thing. I had this discussion with my friend, and the way that, kind of like how you just explained it, USMC style, they have better caliber weapons with actual piercing rounds versus an AK. A Rebel with an AK just has normal ammunition. So that's how I kind of forgot about that and moved it along the catalog.
Sometimes you have to connect the dots yourself to get it to a place where you're okay with it. The CG issues and some of that stuff where it might like you have to suspend disbelief, as people like to say, hasn't bothered me too much. And I've seen some. Here's the way I look at it. I've seen some really great movies and shows that had the best CG and effects ever, and they were terrible movies, right? And then I've seen some old school sci-fi where the aliens are running around in monster uniforms and stuff, and those are some of the best shows ever. So it's not all about that. Obviously, it would be great to see things get a little improved, and maybe they steer away from some of the discrepancies about, like you were talking about, the ammunition and that kind of stuff. But hopefully they'll get a little better with time. This seems to be a show that, like we said, we know it's renewed for season 2, and they have some time to look at what's working and look at what's not, and make things better, improve where they can. So some good points there.
Yeah, such a loud whisper. Welcome to Halo Talks. What did you think of the show? Also, if you're down at the bottom left, there'll be the little mic button. Go ahead and hit that. It'll unmute yourself so you can talk. Sometimes you might have to refresh the client. This is an alpha kind of client still with Reddit.
Yeah.
There you are, loud and clear.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I've liked it a lot so far. I think my concern is like there's a corporate feel that is concerned. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it feels very stale to me a lot of the time, where I'm wishing that I could get a lot more creative depth, you know?
I think I think I do understand what you're saying, and that was kind of my issue with maybe the first episode, especially. Like it just felt kind of generic, and maybe like they weren't willing to take chances. I'm not sure how to exactly phrase it, but I do think I pick up on what you're trying to say here. So has that opinion changed? Do you think it's getting better as we progress through the season?
I think it's getting better for sure, in the sense of like what you were saying in the first episode, but I don't know, maybe it's super nitpicky stuff, but something about like the world and the environments and the way it's shot, I just feel like I'm on a set all the time, if that makes sense. And that's the part that feels very much like I feel like I can't get myself there.
So your issue is the immersion. It doesn't feel like it's not taking you to the Halo universe, the Halo world. It's not taking you outside of that mindset.
It feels like a good show that's set in the Halo world that I enjoy watching, but I don't feel like I'm there. I don't feel like I've gone to Lord of the. You go to watch Lord of the Rings, and you're in the world. I can't ever get there, and I don't know if I don't know what it is about it that I'm watching that's creating that feeling, but it's frustrating, I gotta say.
I think they use a lot of set pieces, and I think they really, I mean, the furthest they've gone is episode 2, where they took you to the asteroid belt, you know, and then that really transported you to another world. But everything else has always been like, even when the symphony thing, you know, when the guys were playing out there, that kind of was like, they don't have those that set pieces to where it's showing you. It's always been, so far, a lot of it either green screens or I see what you mean. It's kind of like
it might be a green screen element that, I don't know. I guess I'm hoping that I'm liking it more as it goes, but I'm hoping that as it hopefully can get, not that it's not getting traction, but if it can get more successful, that maybe I'm just almost hoping, like, you know, Dune just came out, and I'm a huge fan of the book, and I felt like I had my face shoved into the book, and I don't feel that way here. And I'm hoping I know budget's part of that, but on the other end, like, you know, I feel like there's something they could be doing to put me in it more.
For me, because I kind of had that sense going into it too. For me, it was two things. One, I was always looking for something from Halo that I recognized, because this isn't something like this is all entirely new, and I was looking to grasp onto something that I wanted to see stuff that I recognized from the show, and I never really got that. In the first episode we got AKs, we got the Chevy trucks, but once I held back from that and realized that it's a different timeline, it's a different story, and I kind of started treating it more as a sci-fi show. Then I also had the same problem with they tend to reuse the same rooms a lot.
Yeah.
Almost like it's like Full House. They keep transferring it into the living room. It's always similar rooms, and hopefully they start branching out more. And I think they're starting to do that. But even when they go back to Magical, it's almost like they're always in that tower space where the first shot was. Even the bad guy leader there, it seems like he's always in the same area. It's just super red deserty area with metal in the background. It never really changes a whole lot. So I get the feeling, I do. But for me, it's starting to lighten up a little bit. They're starting to vary out, and now they're going off to Wyoming for the next shot.
So yeah, they go to Portland.
Hopefully we get some wide angle shots rather than just up close in a technological Halsey environment. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it also suffers too from the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, where a lot of it was all CGI, studio, green screen. So it never really that was part of the charm too, whether people realized it or not, of the original Star Wars, is they were almost all shot mostly on live locations. So you got that real world feel. And like you said, I think it's like set pieces, it's like, Full House. I think it's a great example. It's like a sitcom. Where they're changing out, another room for another room, which would make Master Chief Danny Tanner or Uncle Jesse. I'm just kind of wondering about that, but yeah, I definitely see what you mean about.
I want to dive. Hold on. That's what is that? I want to dive in on that conversation. I feel like Master Chief is, man, Danny Tanner kind of follows all the rules and. Okay, I'll stop, man. But that's wild.
Yeah, he has both.
He's
right, but he's also the Uncle Jesse Cool, right? And
he's Bob Saget. That's who he is.
But yeah, I definitely see. I think when you said Full House, that kind of perfectly describes. It's like a sitcom. They're using just studios, moving on to the next scene, It could also be the commercials, how they set it up, like the breaks. I don't have the commercials, but we talked about it last episode, where they're doing those weird cuts. And I think that also kind of takes you out of the element, rather than like a Game of Thrones style, where you can just watch and you're constantly getting that immersion. You're never leaving. But now they're having these hard cuts where it goes to black, and then all of a sudden they're in a new scene. It's a very great point. I didn't really realize it until you mentioned it, Such a Loud Whisper, but that's a really good point.
I
Thanks.
was gonna say, keep in mind they're new to the streaming platform, so hopefully those cuts get taken out. Hear us, Paramount, for season 2. Stop it. Do weird cuts for the commercials. Don't do these weird set pieces.
If you're on the $4.99 plan, just you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I got high hopes for the show. Thanks for letting me come on and chat. I got my pizza man's here.
Oh, go get your pizza, man. That's important stuff.
I had pizza earlier.
Nice.
Costco pizza, though.
Hey, Such a Loud Whisper, leave a comment down below in the discussion, and we'll give you out a month of Reddit Premium.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yep, thanks for taking part.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Enjoy that pizza, bro.
Man, that sounds good. I'm always a sucker for pizza, so I did kind of want to get into. I tell you what, I keep feeling the same vibe. First of all, do we know the human leader of the Covenant's name?
I think it's pronounced Maki.
Maki. Okay, I need to get that hammered in my head because she's obviously going to be a very large character in this season and maybe beyond. Are you guys getting the vibe at all that her humanity keeps pulling back at her? They keep showing her holding on to that book, and we got a little more of her backstory this time, which is probably something worth discussing too, where she was a child and they were reading books, dreaming about grass, and they lived on a planet that was pretty much looked like a slave planet and kind of all industrial, and they were like, wow, you can just walk on grass. And anyways, what I'm getting to here, it feels like she's like really yearning for some of that humanity and that experience, even though she insists that she's out to battle humanity, it seems like. So she seems like a conflicted character. Do you guys get any sense that she's gonna flip? Do we think she's gonna turn at some point, or I don't know, it's just some vibes I'm picking up, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think she's going to. And unfortunately, I'm getting more and more vibes like they're brother and sister, and I'm not liking that. And I don't want that. I don't. But the more it leads into it, the bigger that feeling gets. Especially since we heard that, John was on this planet, that the kids and everything were separated. Like, he was separated from his parents. He doesn't remember much. She's on a trash planet there in her backstory. So she could have very well been born and then separated from the parents because of that plague that happens. Even if it was a plague, we don't even know. So they might have been separated like near birth. So I think 100% though, she's going to come to it's going to be like a decision moment, and she's going to reverse her course. Whether she fully makes amends, I don't know. I think she might borderline a bit. But she was ruthless with the Marines. But that's also because when she came in my opinion, the Marines they treated her like a dog at first, and they're like, okay, you can stand up. And then in that moment of humanity that they had actually given her, suddenly everything springs on them and they die. So she's seen nothing but hostile acts from human, besides that one small boy that was way too close of a kiss with the camera. But that was
like almost there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable watching 6-year-olds kiss right next to them, an inch away with the camera.
It was a weird moment. I agree there. I was just like, all right.
Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, we got the, I think we were a little our pre-discussion and stuff. Master Cheeks. That whole shot of him, sitting there when he's about to dig out the pellet and stuff. The kids running off into the woods to go do shrooms, and then they get their head blasted off. It's like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, they're doing a lot of these crazy shots and these crazy scenes, and I don't know if it's just for shock and awe or what. Like, when like the first episode when they just massacre all those kids, it's just like, I don't know. It's gritty and it's almost grounded, but it's not. So that's why, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It doesn't. I think the pacing and how it flows is a little weird. But that was just a side little tangent that I've just speaking of weird scenes and awkward scenes.
No, that's the stuff it's fun to kind of dissect in a conversation like this, where we can dive in a little deeper on some of the smaller moments like that, which are still meaningful and sometimes a little weird.
Yeah, but to go back to the point, I think. I don't know. I can see her like getting a shred of humanity, and then the UNSC just screwing it all up and just further, reinforcing her resolve and her dedication to killing, being working with the Covenant and all that stuff. I just they're kind of hinting at it, like this could be a little turn, a turn for her. But I don't think it's going to play out that way. I think overall, I think it's going to be going into like season 2 or even maybe season 3. It's going to be pretty much Master Chief and Cortana versus the world. And I think that would actually make a little bit more of a better storyline. And I think it would really, bolster people behind Master Chief and Cortana a little bit more.
I made the borderline comment earlier, and I think you're actually right. What will happen is she'll let him live once and then go back to being a total a-hole, so to speak. She'll go back to being evil and bad, and she won't tell them that she let him live, and then maybe at some point they'll find out or something. Who knows? But that's too much. It's too detailed. But I think she'll let him live or something at some point where he gets away. Either he gets captured, or there's a moment she has where she can pull the trigger and she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really weird foreshadowing if they were like, they're gonna re-scene, like, how that whole kiss thing between her, and it's like it's her and John, Master Chief. I don't know, like I could see them going like total cheese balls like that, and just really like trying to be like, and then something happens and now she's just like, no, humans are evil. But yeah, I can see what you're saying.
So I mean, all the foreshadowing that they're doing is kind of obvious, and it could be a misdirection as well. And some of the best writing, I mean, some of the best Game of Thrones moments were the ones where you're just like, oh, this is obviously what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden they're just like, yank, you know, some favorite character dies or something like that. So I think they're setting us up in a situation to where maybe we're rooting for her to come back, you know, to find that humanity, because the backstory is kind of like, you know, it's a kid that just wants to touch grass. Like, like you can't. How can anybody not relate to that, right? And so they might be trying to pull us in a little bit on that. And then if she comes back and does something completely awful, some kind of betrayal of the chief, that would be an interesting storyline. And this would be a good way to set that up too. So you really make people root for her, and then she's ruthless in the end. I think it's probably one of the more interesting parts of the show so far, because I really. I don't feel like I feel like they're trying to lead us down a lane, but I don't know if I can trust it, and I'm really excited to see how that goes.
I would like to see a lot of that. I would. I want to see them pull it from under our feet, the rug.
Yeah, I like the moral of the ending of this episode was Master Chief just wants to go touch grass. That's like the greatest thing ever. Like what you just said, like that's his, like he just wants to go home and touch grass.
It's the greatest Reddit advice ever given. So I mean, more power to him, I guess.
So do we want to talk about Master Cheeks?
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about Master Cheeks, because this is getting to be like, you know, what's going to happen next week, right? We lost the helmet. It's a piece at a time, but it's obviously been a really big talking point.
Yeah, I actually see it as a way of, and maybe I'm reaching too much. Maybe this is my English teacher telling me, so what did the author mean when they said, because in the beginning, you know, the first shot we see of him, he's in his armor, he's full battle mode, he's kicking butt, he's coming out, just taking aliens out, and then he takes his helmet off in a moment of humanity to like tell the girl, hey, if you're gonna aim anywhere, aim here. And then the next episode, he's got the armor off, he's handcuffed. At the very end, he's walking out and he's handcuffed and he has no armor at all. And then the third episode, he's stripped down and he's pulling out his emotional chip. It to me kind of seems like, as they pull away the Spartan armor and they take away what makes him a Spartan with the guns, the armor, the suit, and the pellet, they're showing that he's becoming more human. And maybe that's maybe they're trying to do that. So not only is he a soldier that protects humanity because that's what he's told to do, but he will learn humanity and realize why humanity is worth saving. So I don't know if that's how they're trying to do it. And again, the English teacher in me from back in high school is screaming at me like, you're getting it. I don't know. Or maybe they're telling me you're wrong. I'm trying to think of a reason otherwise why we saw him naked.
After he did pull out the emulsion chip, and it kind of flowing from that scene, I guess, I thought that was also one of the more interesting parts of the episode, when he was just walking around and he saw the doggo, right? He didn't get a boop in. I was like, come on, Chief, get that boop in. But it did not happen, unfortunately. But you could tell that he was feeling these things, and he was listening to some music, looking at a young couple in love, and just letting, you know, he was feeling things, like I was saying. It's like he hasn't been able to feel these things for as long as that pod's been in there. So I thought that was just an interesting and kind of a cool scene, I guess.
Yeah, and I think he's trying to rediscover, I guess, his humanity as well, which which is why I think the Cortana pairing is going to be pretty good, because while she's an AI, she's also trying to discover her humanity as well. Because like she's popping up, hey, I'm Cortana, you know, like she's trying to be involved, and she has all those human qualities that Master Chief doesn't. So it's kind of that like nice little pairing and bouncing off of each other to where they're going to grow and learn together. And then, like I said, we're going to get that classic Cortana Master Chief kind of relationship that we've all known to love. But yeah, I think Mikey hit it. I was going to say the same thing. It's every episode they're slowly stripping away part of that armor to humanize him and to show him that he's more than just a Spartan. He's more than just some ravenous, killing machine that's meant for battle. He is human. He is he is a person. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing on going forward, is when I think probably even see that the other blessed one, when they see her, I think that's going to be, kind of like a moment to where he's maybe not going to kill her. Maybe that's where, I don't know. There's a lot that they could go different routes. But I like what they're doing with him. They're rebuilding him, and they're making him for the casual audience to come back and know who Master Chief is.
I think he's also gonna have a freak out moment, because like at the end there, when he had his armor on and he was talking to Halsey, he's like almost like on the verge of shaking her, like, "Oh my gosh, I think this is what we have to do." It was like the first time he was raising his voice and kind of having a freak out moment. It was like unusual.
Yeah,
because he had emotion.
Yeah, 100%.
So when he gets in, he's probably gonna get into a firefight. That might actually be a good pun, because he's gonna freak out because he's not gonna know how to handle it. He's gonna get a wave of emotions, and they're gonna overwhelm him because he's never had to deal with it.
And I really like emotional Chief. Like I'm more interested in this Chief than I am in the game Chief, and I know that's sacrilegious. I know people will hate that take, but
I hate that take.
I just really am. Like
Yeah.
I'm just more interested in this dude. I know that he's not our Master Chief from the games, but this setup here is really good for me. You haven't felt anything forever, now you're feeling things for the first time, and like they've just done a wonderful job of roping someone like me in.
Well, I mean, with Halo, the Halo game series, you always know he's gonna kick butt. You always know he's gonna win. He's just gonna take care of business, mainly because you're playing as him. But
Right, yeah, that would be, oh man, he died after the first level. Like, that was shocking.
And with the TV show, you don't know what's gonna happen. It's definitely different to see him freaking out, to see him. I'm waiting to see him cry. It's going to be things that you would have never thought that you saw Master Chief doing. And I know a couple weeks ago I was complaining about the whole helmet scene. I'm glad this has gone an entirely different direction, because this is making, every time I walk away from an episode, I'm like, what are they going to do? Like, because this is entirely different. I hate Halsey. I'm not sure if I hate her. It's like she's had her. I view her as like a more moderate Dr. Robotnik with no humanity whatsoever, has no connections to humans, like in the Sonic movies, but she's not psycho crazy like Jim Carrey. She just wants to get her work done. She's so removed from reality, she doesn't even talk to her own daughter. She's never have
scientists, basically.
Yes, and yes, yes.
That's sorry, but I mean, she has that mentality of like a scientist, like where there's, it's just that they think logically. She's a Vulcan, pretty much, to like kind of.
Vulcan, no emotion, like pure, like everything's based on numbers and that kind of thing. But I'm not sure, like, that she also does kind of obviously have an emotional attachment to Chief, because she's always, pulling strings and bending the rules for him, so to speak. And I think what a good show does is it leaves you conflicted about characters, and there's a few of them that we've just discussed that we not sure which way we're leaning on them yet, and it leaves you questioning what's going to happen. Where even when you feel things are predictable, they still kind of have, well, maybe they're making it too predictable kind of thing, and I think this show is doing some of that stuff, so it's really kind of funny to discuss some of this.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to cut you off on that thing, but I was just kind of seeing what you were saying. She's like a Vulcan. She's very just. Oh, I think her emotional attachment to Chief is he's a science project. He's the guinea pig in the laboratory that she's doing this. That's her success. That's what she wants, and I think that's kind of like her mentality is. Yeah, she kind of does show emotion here and there, but it's emotion purely out of the work and her logic rather than actual emotion. Is that what you're trying to say, Mikey? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
She's so far removed that what I was bringing up is, have we had a scene where Halsey and Miranda talk to one another? That's mother and daughter. And I don't think we've ever even seen them speak to each other, and they work at the same base on different teams. And it seems at least Miranda hates her own mother. They never even talk. That's how far removed she is from reality. It's you don't even get to see them talking yet, and it's been 3 episodes, which is strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then this seems like the dad's kind of playing, referee between them, and like kind of tiptoeing the line of keeping everybody balanced and happy. I don't know. It's yeah, you bring up a really good point. I mean, maybe we'll finally see a big blowout between them, and who knows, maybe that'd be a character development point for Halsey, to kind of, while Master Chief is learning his humanity, it could be, something for her to look at and kind of retrospect for herself and her family and make her a better scientist. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of just spitting here, but yeah, it's kind of weird. You do bring up a really good point.
She's another one of those characters where I feel like we're going to be rooting for her by the end of it, and I think that there will be some kind of revelation where I think the biggest thing with her right now is that it's work for first, right? She's one of those characters where nothing will get in the way of her projects, her work, and it's like her life goal kind of thing. So, and including maybe even her daughter, as Mikey was just pointing out, it's just going to be that's the main focus the whole time through. But there might be a point where she has to decide, if it's Chief or if it's whatever the crisis is at the time or whatever their project is, and hopefully she'll pull for Chief in that situation, and that's another chance where a character might be redeemed, because obviously right now she's a good character, because you don't know if obviously she's doing some stuff that's kind of nefarious and bending rules and working for her own agenda kind of thing, and you don't know if her agenda is in the best interest of Chief and humans as a whole, or if it's self-serving.
I mean, yeah, because sometimes you feel like, yeah, you're doing the right thing, but in reality, what she ends up doing is I feel like she is doing it for her own agenda, because she sends the other Spartans out to save her, to save Chief, to make sure that nobody else shoots Chief, but in reality, it's just so they can see his interaction with the key, like they can help get the artifact. She's doing it for her own benefit, but it still doesn't make me totally hate her yet. I feel like her redemption, this would be my guess, she'll be in the end will be the one that has a sacrificial moment and dies, potentially. Who she saves, whether that be her daughter or something like that, I can see her being written out of the show in first season, which stinks, because I like her character. She makes humanity, she makes it more complicated, more complex, rather than just seeing the UNSC going out and just being bullies and stuff, or other like on the garbage planet. Do we even know what that planet was called, besides garbage?
No, I was having a really hard time like describing it. I think like Trash Planet. Like you just came in and you're like Trash Planet, and I was like, yes, Trash Planet.
Because humanity just so far sucks. They almost don't give you a reason to root for humanity, because everyone just is terrible. I mean, the people that were getting enslaved on the garbage planet, the people that were what happened to the colony that were extended, the people on Madrigal that were getting killed by UNSC that were fighting back, and now even the people taking over, that the guy was just a tyrant and shooting anybody that had anything to do with anybody else. They were going to shoot the girl as she came in, a code 72 or whatever it was. Humanity sucks, and so far only a few people are even redeeming humanity. If you didn't know anything about Halo, you almost just want to root for the Covenant.
Okay, I like this. I want to.
Yeah, it's totally different from the games, though. I mean, because in the games, it's always, oh yeah, like there's the military complex, and they're all about saving humanity, but no one's really truly inherently evil. No one really sucks. I know Chief gets in an argument with people at times, and it's just like, well, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna save people, but it's never. The other guys never do anything bad. He's never sticking needles in a clone's eye in order to rip out their brain image and actually kill them. He's never doing stuff like that. Like no one's ever using anybody as experiments. I just cut myself off. I feel like I'm rambling.
It's like dystopian, or Yeah, it's like dystopian future where, yeah, it's like, yeah, garbage. I mean, they got garbage planets. Like, out of all the billions of planets, there's one that's like a garbage planet. Yeah, it's just weird. Like, I think this just kind of further reinforces, like what I was saying earlier, that they're gonna, I think going into season 2, just everybody sucks, and it's gonna be Master Chief and Cortana to save the universe, even if it's in the best, for people that don't realize it, that's in their best interests, like humanity, where but now I'm curious too on like how it got this bad. Like, will they go further and maybe in season 2 or maybe later on? They're setting up a lot but not explaining a lot, and it's just kind of asking you to just kind of believe like, yep, this sucks right now, and it's like humanity's bad, but maybe they might release a book. Is there a book that kind of goes with the TV show that's kind of outside of everything that kind of explains a little bit more? Does anybody know?
I don't. That would be good. I would really like to see that, like an actual lore book or a book that just like a backstory on everything. Because another part of all this is I'm not sure how AI is created in the video game. I don't think it's the brute force method that they've done in the show though. And all this like humanity just seems kind of bad. They're not, it's not Star Trek Utopia type level of humanity. It's almost like that's how the AI was created in this instance, was by brute force and ripping someone's brain essentially out of their head. They're still going down the same path of AI, but it's done through these brutal methods. And I wonder if we're going to see more along those lines. We'll see.
Yeah, I never read the books, so I'm not sure how the AI is created. It's interesting to see, though. I think it just reinforces, yeah, like I said, the humanity sucks, and they're willing to use any kind of, well, at least Halsey's really willing to use any kind of force necessary to accomplish her science projects, But yeah, I would love to see a lore book too, kind of go back in to see like how things got that bad. Would be really interesting. That's another I'd say that's another con of the show, like we've been talking about. They ask you to suspend your belief on some stuff and just kind of be like, well, that's just how it is. And I think that's, if they do go into season 2, they definitely need to work on that aspect of the show.
Yeah, it's I kind of agree with you there. So I wanted to the thing about the Halo or the helmet is still like a huge debate, and I was kind of looking over Twitter tonight, and Pablo Schreiber, is that how you say his name? I'm terrible with names, but the man playing Master Chief from Orange Is the New Black and all that, he's been anyways making a lot of comments, and kind of he seems to be really into playing this character, first of all, and I think that's fantastic. Like, this seems to be more than just like a paycheck job for him. Like, he wants it to take off, obviously, it'd be great for his career, but he also just really seems to enjoy the series and the world that they're building. And people have been giving him a lot of grief about the helmet stuff. And one of the things where like somebody commented, keep the beeping helmet on, man. And he responded, like, I think we both know by this point that's not going to happen, talking about keeping the helmet on. He will certainly use it when necessary, he says, but also screaming never helps, young man. He kind of gave him grief for for being loud on the internet. And then somebody else commented, they say, I look at it this way. When he has his helmet off, we get character development. When he puts his helmet on, shiz is going to go down. And he just kind of reacts, and he says, that's the best take at. Or yeah, that's kind of where this is at. The people that the helmet broke the show for them, well, hopefully they just kind of vacate, I guess, because that's just not what's going to happen with the show. I've found the whole thing kind of silly and kind of weird. I was over on the Halo sub, and some people were just like, this isn't our Halo, and all these dramatic takes. And I hope that this will be put to rest sooner than later, and it kind of sounds like it already is.
Yeah, you kind of, it's not the Halo game. It is Halo, but it's a different sci-fi take on Halo. And I think if you're going to get into the show, you have to accept that. And not that it's a bad thing. I tons of different movies and books, and they do it differently. You look at Maze Runner is a good example. I don't know if people like back in my earlier days when I was into those teen novels, I read Maze Runner and then I watched the movie. The things were different, just down to the maze concept. In the book, the maze was a square. In the movie, it was a circle. Entire
Blasphemy.
right, but just like they change weird things, and sometimes they go way further out. But that's for the benefit of the show or the movie, because you don't want to just tell the same thing unless it's already like, look at Lord of the Rings. You obviously don't want to change that too much because you have a masterpiece, but that was written 70 years ago. Halo's not an old thing. It's something that's currently coming out, currently being developed alongside the show. So it's got to be different. It can't be the same story. You can't retell a 70-year-old book, so you don't have that. You have a current video game that's been in development for less time than that.
Yeah, and having a book for a source is a really different thing than having a video game for a source, where there's might be an hour and a half of total, cutscenes, if you will, in total across all the games. So it's this is why I think when Game of Thrones, when they lost the books as a source, the show kind of went downhill in a lot of people's opinion, and also why Lord of the Rings was a fantastic trilogy, the originals at least, by most account, because they had all this great source material. And I don't think the games, we've kind of discussed this before, I don't think the games give that level of depth for a story that's going to translate to a multi-season television show.
Also, side note, I did look this up and I was completely wrong about the AI. It's done the exact same way, except typically the host of the AI, when they scan the brain tissue, what ends up happening is the brain tissue is destroyed. The host is generally dead. So they don't usually use it on live subjects. They use it on dead ones, which is something I don't think they really got to in the show. But just to add to the whole gruesome thing, they also don't shove a needle halfway into Master Chief's head in the game. It's a chip in his armor. So,
well, that's a little different, a brain implant or an armor chip.
yeah, not to sidetrack too much, but when I'm dead wrong about something, I want to make sure I go back and correct it. I was dead wrong.
I'm the king of Googling everything. I'm just like, wait, is that right? Is that right? Who was that? And yeah, just all day long. So I totally get it.
Yeah, I think, well, like I think they're going to go, and I think this is very early tech kind of, in a sense. It seems like we're getting a prequel almost to like everything that we've known about the game, but it's not a prequel. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But I think we're seeing, maybe eventually they'll go to the chip route after it's a little bit more, Halo evolved. Gotta give myself a pat on the back there for that one.
Yeah, grown.
I hate you.
But yeah, like I think that's do you get that feeling that it's like a prequel almost? We're seeing stuff that maybe only in the books, not in the games, and they're kind of telling maybe something that's a little bit more in line with the books rather than like a game.
We're also watching it be developed. In the games, it's just thrown in, like AI's thrown in but then explained through other various methods later on, but you just accept it up front when you first play Halo 1. I don't like that I called it Halo 1. Halo Combat. Sorry. So they're actually showing you, well, here's the gruesome process of creating it, which in the games is how it would have been done, but the person should be dead. And it adds depth to the TV show, whereas if you don't explain that in the show, it will never get explained, because you don't create, while a book would be nice, that's also a terrible way to explain things that are happening in the show by releasing a book afterwards. I can't remember the show. I remember it actually did that. And it released a book later on that explained things, and you should never have to go out and read other source material in order to understand the universe you're in. So it's a great way within TVs and movies to do that. Also, not to totally sidetrack the conversation, but something's been bothering me. We talked about Mackie earlier. What the heck was that worm thing? Because initially it looked like muscle strands for a hunter, and then it was just worms.
I thought hunter as well when I saw it.
I actually kind of looked this up, and I'm probably the lore noob in the group here, but I think they mentioned the hunter, and it was a lesser known form of the hunters. That this, like I said, this could be totally out of left field, but I was also interested into what exactly those creatures were, because they did look familiar to me from the game, but not as the Covenant. I think I saw them as part of the Flood, and I just couldn't figure that out either. And because, like you were saying, they showed him inside like a suit of armor, right? Like they almost had a human form, and then they kind of broke apart and they did their thing there. It looked like Carry On, that one indie game.
Yeah, because hunters they're made out of, and I remember playing Halo 1 back. I did it again, Halo back in the day. And the first time I saw Hunter, I just assumed it was muscle strands, but it is actually worms. But I wasn't sure if I saw armor, and I didn't know if that was a confirmation that what we were getting is a Hunter down the road, because they're made out of I'll have to look up the name, but it's supposed to be worm-like creatures that create this beast and work in unison. So it was weird to see it spread out like that. It was almost freaky. I'm like, wait, are we this? Okay, this isn't the Flood. I was like, I think it's a Hunter though, but it was cool to see that. So eventually, what we'll probably get to see is a showdown between a Hunter and Chief.
Yeah, that was pretty apt. Then what I read seems to be in line with what you know about them. So I guess that's a pretty good explanation for all of that. So just to kind of mention, first of all, thanks to those of you that have joined us live tonight. We're going to make this a weekly show where we're going to discuss the latest episode of Halo the series. Hopefully you all are enjoying it as much as we are. If you want to come up and talk, we still have a little time left in this show. You can raise your hand. There's a little icon there, and we will bring you on up, and we'd love to hear what you thought about this week's episode. We'll throw you a month of Reddit Premium for taking part in the show. This is also available on YouTube and Spotify after the fact, so you even get to be recorded. You can listen to yourself later, and that's always kind of fun. But just wanted to say we appreciate you guys checking us out tonight, and we would love to hear your takes if anybody's brave enough to come up.
Yeah, and if this is also something that maybe you guys want on another night, let us know. Normally, we do have our Xbox Talk show, which I mentioned earlier. That is hosting actually tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want, you can listen to there. That's more Xbox general news of the week that's happening, or different things just in the Xbox world. But yeah, if you guys like the show and you want it maybe on another night, let us know. Drop it in the comments, send us some mod mail, whatever. These shows are primarily made for you, the community, and that's why we do it. That's why we're hosting these things, is because we want to provide you guys with some awesome content. Like I said, Reddit thought you guys were awesome, that they wanted us to let us partake in some of these beta programs like predictions and Reddit talks, and we think you're awesome, so we'd love to hear you guys come up and talk.
And with all that said, where do you guys think we're going for episode 4? What's going to happen? I actually kind of forget the end of this episode, how they closed it, but I noticed tonight that I saw maybe there's a preview out there already for what might be to happen. So just kind of your guesses though, like where does the story go from here?
Well, I haven't seen the preview. I think we're going to get the showdown with the Hunter, and somebody in the comments, thankfully they pointed it out. I might be saying it wrong. Lekgolo is the name of the worm that forms. I think we're going to see a showdown. She's going to catch up. She's going to find him. And I think the Hunter drops down at the end of the episode after they uncover whatever it is hidden in the dirt. Hunter drops at the end of episode 4, and that's going to be a big part in Sorry.
Nope. It happens.
If you're watching on the camera, you can probably see me crying. But I think it drops down, and then that's going to be the big part of episode 5 is the fight. It's going to tease that leading into the next one even.
I'm ready to see Master Chief start kicking a little more ass. The first episode set up with a lot of action, and the last 2 episodes have been more about character development. And like I said, episode 3 is by far my favorite episode so far, but it's time to start blowing some stuff up. So I kind of hope that's what happens, that they're going to go search for that relic, like you said, and we're going to have a little showdown, because obviously they're all headed to the same point. Like it's kind of setting up to be, there's going to be a intersection of all the parties involved after this particular piece of equipment.
Yeah, I for episode 4, I don't think the Hunter showdown will happen quite yet, because I remember I think she said she's going to go to Madrigal and find out what's going on there. I think if we're going to see any Hunter action, I think it's going to be the guy in black, the new, I guess, prime minister or whatever, the new ruler of Madrigal. I think he's probably going to try and walk up and think, oh, this is just some chick, who does she think she is, talking to me, kind of thing. And then here comes the Hunter, and going to have that total like Hulk, where he grabs Loki by the foot and starts throwing the dude around. Kind of something like that. I think that's where they're going to go in, or maybe they might recruit him. Who knows? But I think episode 4 is, Master Chief's finally going to touch grass. He's finally going to go out, see his home world, and that's when he's going to have to deal with his emotions. That's when I think that's what Halsey's banking on and why she wants to go with him, is he's going to touch, and now without the chip, he's going to experience things he's never experienced before. And I think she's banking on him freaking out so she can be like, this is why we have that pellet in you. And to kind of reinforce, like, hey, you're a Spartan, put it back in, kind of thing.
Yeah, also a really good observation there. She went with him for a reason, for the story reason and for her own motivations, obviously. But that's going to be important for one reason or another. So welcome to the stage, Doom guys. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to hear you. Hopefully you can unmute yourself if you hit the little microphone. There you are. How are you doing?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Do I
loud and
sound
clear. You sound good.
All right, thanks. So unfortunately I haven't I only watched episode 1 of this new Halo series over at my friend's house. I don't actually have Paramount Plus. So
Hopefully
I've
we're
only
not
watched
spoiling
episode
too much
1.
for you, but that's great though. What is your kind of take on the show after episode 1? Are you interested to see more of it?
Oh, I'm very interested. I love Halo. I just one of the things I kind of want to talk about is how one thing I didn't like about episode 1 is how they took off Chief's helmet, like in the first episode. Like I just thought that was kind of odd to kind of like break one of the number 1 rules of Halo in like the first episode. I don't know. Just,
Right, it was a very brash of them, and we kind of discussed this a little bit before. It feels like they wanted to just be like, hey, this is what you're getting, and we kind of had this debate too. Like, if they were going to do it, boy, they could have saved that until the last episode of season 1, really. But we were never going to get, and you'll see this if you do get to see the next few episodes. We're never going to get the kind of like humanity that they're trying to portray out of Chief, and it actually becomes kind of a. Even if you didn't like him taking the helmet off, you will hopefully start to understand why they went that route, because the Chief is becoming a really interesting guy, and I'm not sure he could do that if he was just, in his gruff voice, monotone, with the helmet on the entire series. So definitely jarring, though. Like, you're definitely not the only person that has made that observation, and a lot of people are still talking about it. Like I said, tonight on Twitter, the actor that plays Master Chief is carrying on with that debate and talking to people about that. So totally understandable. Did you are there any of the other characters that stood out to you from the first episode that you found interesting? Or we might have kind of lost you there for a second, but anyways, yeah, it's a pretty...
sorry about that.
No, you're back. Good.
I kind of one thing I want to talk about is like how gory the show is, like how deep it got in the first episode, like how it just jumped straight in the action, like that first scene where that kid got his fucking head blown off and shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was the violence was pretty intense, and we tried to watch the language on the show. It's not really a huge deal, but no problem. We don't have any notices or anything, so it's fine. The show is mature rated, so actually the audience listening to this shouldn't really care anyways. But beside the point, yeah, really gory, right? Like, we discussed that too. Within the first 10 minutes of the show, we have kids that are missing their legs in the field. Somebody's head gets blown off. A car full of children gets murdered. They just kind of going back to how they had Chief take his helmet off so early. It seemed like they just wanted to really, in the first episode, lay down what we're going to get with this series and what we can expect moving on. So I found it to be surprising though too. So yeah, it was really kind of crazy. The games are violent, but you're not getting that kind of gore,
Also, in the future, if you're gonna swear, all you gotta do is have a bleep button. So you just gotta go, "I hate you." So
Mikey's all prepared for this because he
man.
curses all the time. So
Yeah. But Doom guys, I'm curious. Do you prefer the violence in the show, or do you think they should kind of? Granted, the games have always been, graphic in nature, just because you're shooting things and stuff like that. But seeing the level that they're providing in the show, do you think that's a benefit to the show, or is it a negative for the show for you?
I personally believe it's a benefit. I think that's just one of the main things of Halo. Because one of the main themes of Halo is that, like, humans, they're on their last leg. Well, not on their last leg, but we've been at war for like a couple years now. We're out in the stars and shit. Oh, sorry. It's really hard to hold back sometimes. Just like the whole the whole war aspect of Halo, how it's been going on for years now. I would love to see more like gore like that, just war stuff. Another thing.
Interesting. No, that's good. Yeah, I think we were talking about that earlier about how it. We're looking a little bit for more action. We're looking for something, and I think we're going to start to get that in episode 4 and 5. I think Madrigal, there'll probably be a little battle scene, and then who knows what's on the plague planet of Master Chief's, I guess, home planet is what it is. I'm going to use quotations. You guys will probably see it on the YouTube video, but yeah, I don't know. I see what you're saying. A little bit more action, a little bit more Master Chief, right?
Yeah.
Also, Doom Guy, if you want to leave a comment down below in the comment section, we'll drop you a little Reddit premium for your time coming on up.
It's not much, but it's the best we can do. You'll get ad-free surfing for a month on Reddit. So
I'll even throw in an extra month if you comment the word. So go ahead.
Reddit's free for all. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I don't really use Reddit all that much, so I had to come on here and listen to you guys talk. I'm sorry if I'm like really like nervous and stuff, or I'm taking like deep breaths, stuttering and all that. This is my first time being on one of these talks, like being
so we all kind of
up here talking. So
yeah. So when we first started this, it was kind of the same for us. They asked us, they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to test out Reddit Talk?" And we're like, "Sure." And we were doing it from our phones, and we were absolutely the same way. So we'd love to have you come back sometime if you get a little notification and see us chat, and we'll bring you on up. I really don't care about the cursing. It's just we try to keep it clean, but it's not a big deal. Like I said, especially with the content of this show, the Master Chief is going off all the time. So we were just happy that you came up and talked to us about it tonight. So are you by chance a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber or anything like that, or?
Yeah, I'm a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, actually.
Okay, are you U.S. based? Are you North America, U.S. based?
Yes, I live in the Dakotas,
Perfect.
South.
So I don't know if you're aware, but you can. There's a perk right now where I believe you can get Paramount Plus for a month for free. I don't even think you need a credit card or anything, and that would be one way for you to catch up on the show. So just kind of a note for you. So maybe that's one way. Yeah. And,
yeah, thanks for that. I'll make sure to check that out.
For sure. We'd love to hear you. Maybe if you do happen to check it out, come on up next week when we're talking about it, and we'll get some updated thoughts from you. So thanks again so much for coming up, and it was great having you. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Like I said, I was just happy to talk to a fan of the game and the series and hearing some other takes. So thanks so much.
Yep, thank you for taking me on here.
Awesome. Yeah, guys.
What a great guest.
I was going to say, that's what I really love about this, though, is that we get to talk to. We're all just like, we're all people. Nobody's making any money doing this thing. We're just talking about our favorite hobby, and it's great to hear a real take. And even if somebody's a little bit nervous when they come up, that's what makes this such a great client and such a unique experience. So that was terrific. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, come up, guys. Talk with us. We're just regular people, just like you. We love just talking about Halo and Xbox stuff. So no need to be nervous. You guys he did great. I thought he did great. It was awesome talking to him and hearing an actual genuine experience of what he thought about. I mean, from going all the way back to episode 1, to see his thought process and stuff. I loved hearing about that.
Yeah, I made the jokes about with the bleep button, but I did it to loosen him up a little bit because he was nervous and I could tell. And guy, I'm just gonna tell you, Doom Guy, it's natural. Trust me. But you're only in front of people who are just as nerdy as you. So welcome.
You know that you're in good company usually in these Reddit talks, because they're all surrounded by communities about topics that everybody's into. That's another thing that makes them so great. So this has been a lot of fun. I think did you guys have anything that you wanted to wrap up with? Kind of last thoughts about the Master Chief, the series, Halo, the series, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging what they're going. I think we're starting to turn that corner of narrative based now to where I think what you said earlier, where you mentioned the comment of when he has his helmet off, he's it's a character humanized, and then once he gets it on, you're seeing the Spartan, and I think we're going to start seeing the Spartan again pretty soon. I think that's what people want to see. And I think they had to take these 2 episodes early on to set the foundation so they can start those crazy scenes without having to keep going back and retract and, kind of ruin the pacing of the show. So I'm excited. I think these next episodes is just going to be absolutely nuts. And we'll see what happens.
I'm interested. My big thing is I want to see exactly what they're hiding. Because as the Halsey's assistant said, I don't actually know his name. He mentioned, are you worried that other memories are going to get brought up? And it's just kind of a risk she's willing to take. I'm interested to see exactly what that is, because I'm assuming we're going to find out, and she's going to have to use Cortana to take over Chief for a moment, because he's going to be in a rage without that pill, without that pellet in his back. So I'm curious to see how humanity screwed up even more.
Chief's off his meds. Watch out.
Crazy Chief.
It's also very interesting to see how that plays out. And the childhood stuff, like you were saying, where we keep getting those flashbacks of Chief's childhood. Well, there's a story there that I don't think's been told in the games for sure. And he's already drawing pictures of the artifacts. That's how they know there's 2 of them. Like, he's already connected to these things in ways that are not explained yet. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they can reveal to us as the season and the series goes on. So I had fun with this.
Yeah.
I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, it was really great. When you guys were saying like he's off his meds, I was like, he's already running around the base naked, like going absolutely crazy. But no, I guys, this is awesome. I love this. This was something that I think we were kind of not unsure on doing, but if it's something we wanted to kind of segment off away from Xbox Talks, and I think it did really well. I really like talking with you guys about this. Really great show today, I thought, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to do it again. I will definitely be in to do it next week. I can't wait to watch the next episode already. Like I said, this episode did it for me. This is the one where it clicked, so I'm excited to see what happens in episode 4 and to be right back here talking about it with you guys. So I think that's about it for the show this week. Thanks for those again, for those of you who joined us live. Thanks, Kevin, for putting this together and coming up with such a great idea.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you guys for joining us.
You're welcome.
Before we go, did you guys want, or Jay, did you want to talk about Xbox Talks tomorrow?
Yeah, actually, we'll be right back here tomorrow, right, at 3 p.m. Eastern. That would be 8 p.m. British time, noon Pacific time. We'll be talking about the week's Xbox news. The last couple weeks, we've actually been leading off of discussion about Halo, the series. If you wanted to go back and catch up and hear some opinions and thoughts on those first 2 episodes, you can find the archive at the top of the Xbox Series X subreddit. We also have a YouTube channel under Xbox Talks where you can watch video and kind of catch up with episodes that way too, where we'll have a playlist for the Halo shows and then a separate Halo list for the normal show that we do, which will be tomorrow. There was some big Xbox news this week. I'm excited to jump in on some of that too, including some Halo news where they have talked about Season 2 and some of the new directions they're taking, which seems to be kind of positively received so far from what I've seen, at least in our communities, and we will dive in more on that tomorrow at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific.
Give or take about 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure, right? Sometimes.
But I just wanted to throw in, I also really enjoyed doing this, not to pat us too much on the back or anything like that, but being able to take a deep dive into certain things you saw throughout the show is nice. I could even go further with like the Spartans and how they actually saw Chief pulling out the pill and stuff. And, there's just so many things you get to talk about in shows like this. So it was nice. I
saw
hope
that.
Everybody else enjoyed it.
Yeah, I saw that clip all week long, and they're kind of making a joke about the Spartan who saw Chief naked. Her reaction wasn't about the pill, but it was about seeing Chief naked, and I got a giggle out of that. I know it's stupid, but her face was just like, okay. Whoa.
My fiance made the same joke.
It's like, what part was she surprised about? But anyways, we will see you all next week. Thanks so much. You guys have a great night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Happy gaming, y'all.
Adios.